Hello everyone, it's thomasjujube, and welcome to my review of Kamen Rider Zi-O Next Time, Kamen Rider Geiz Majesty, the V-cinema that focuses on the adventures of the Zi-O crew after Sogo created some spoilers in the end of Zi-O season, and that actually came out sort of recently, so I'm not too late to review something for once. Woo, we did it. I really enjoyed this movie. I would actually say it's my favorite bit of standalone Zi-O content outside of Reiwa the First Generation that I recently reviewed as well. I had a lot of fun with this movie and that other movie. So if you want to check out that review or all of my other Zi-O videos, I recommend taking a look at the playlist. I've done theories, full season review, and some other assorted things, and I'm sure you'll enjoy after you've watched this video. But now let's actually just get into the nitty gritty of this movie, from the time travel to the nonsense storylines, useless cameos, and wait. So yeah, despite this movie being a G-O-V cinema, woo, you said Zi-O right, it's pronounced Zi-O, woo, a series infamous for not making too much sense in multiple aspects, this movie makes a lot of sense actually. There's not really anything in this movie I find particularly confusing or weird or out of place. Everything flows together pretty good. I would say that except for one part, the movie overall is a good time and an average, fun Kamen Rider movie. I don't think it's really trying to do anything big and insane, but as a result, it also doesn't really fall flat and doesn't have anything terrible in it. It's not going for the fences, it just made a good run, and it does that successfully. And one of the reasons for that is the high school setting. I love seeing these characters just having fun interacting with each other. They're not trying to kill each other for half the show or have the weight of the world on their shoulders. They're all just having fun with each other, and it's awesome. In just a few minutes, I actually have a better time believing Sogo and Geiz are friends here than they were in the actual show, and I like their interactions a lot more as well. They just act like good old buds, and it's great. This movie has the peak Sogo for me as well, because he's just insane for half of it by yelling and screaming. He's so excited when he gets to ride watches. When he sees Waz EY, he's like, oh, can you do that for me too? Once again, he's just having a good time with his friends, and it's so fun. And I also liked his reaction to when Kashin addresses him as the Overlord. It's a different way to reveal Sogo as the future Overlord he is set to be, and I thought that was cool. Tsukiyomi sort of acts the same here as she did in this series as the more serious one, but by cranking up the antics of both Sogo and Geiz, I think it works out very well here. But of course, she still has a great moment to shine when she's also very excited about the ride watch in Jiku Driver with Sogo. Also, I like that we get an actual fight scene and a finisher with Kamen Rider Tsukiyomi. Basically, we kind of build up from Zi-O. We get nothing in the series, then we get a cool fight scene in Reiwa the First Generations, and now she actually gets a solo rider kick and everything in this movie. So thank you, Zi-O. You actually did something with this rider after the series, and maybe the next step up is a V cinema ? At the same time, though, I appreciate that the high school setting is used to actually create some real problems for these characters. Obviously, the main plot of the movie is coming from Geiz losing the ability to practice judo and the plans he made for himself regarding the rest of his life. There's that great conversation he has with Tsukiyomi about how she's going to be a doctor, and now Geiz just has no idea what he's going to be, and they're both like, well, Sogo sure goddamn knows what he's gonna be. It's very real and grounded, and I personally enjoyed seeing this from these characters, and it's something I say I always want out of Power Rangers whenever they try to bring back the high school formula. So it was kind of funny to see Kamen Rider Zi-O, of all things, use this formula and tackle it in an excellent way. This is how I like to see it done. Then the end result with Geiz deciding to become a savior is a bit weird and on the nose, but I will forgive it because, as we all know, Sogo's dream, it was always just to become king. So I kind of like now the parallelism between the two characters and their ideals. Once again, it's a great connection with Sogo and Geiz that I feel could have been put in the actual season, but it's fine because it's here and I like it much better here. In addition, I appreciate having Geiz be the only one to regain his memories from the previous timeline and keep Sogo and Tsukiyomi basically in the dark, as it keeps them kind of crazy, and I like that. And it also makes him more unique from the two of them going forward, and to make him the main character of this movie, of course. I do find it a bit weird that they keep their ride watches and their powers at the end though, because previously in continuity was Reiwa the First Generation, where they randomly got their ride watches and then just as randomly got their memories wiped before, presumably days later, the events of this movie take place. Maybe in that case, it was the team needing to temporarily become timekeepers of sorts, being the only ones that knew how to effectively deal with time jackers, and then after that threat was defeated, they lost their memory and were returned to their world until the intervention of White Waz in this timeline, which made them regaining their memories as permanent. Maybe would have made more sense to just put this movie before Reiwa the First Generation in continuity, so you have them just have their powers in Reiwa the First Generation, and this movie is used as the explanation to how they got their powers back. Just a small nitpick, it's not really a problem, as I guess there's some kind of reason behind it if you just think about it for a second. Now, speaking of White Waz, I really like him here, beyond the fact that Waz's, in general, both of them, are my favorite characters from Zi-O. The opening episode of Zi-O is recreated with White Waz, and Gates has a really awesome reference with the, instead of Beware the Red Robot line that was used in the season, we get Beware the Overlord, which could either be a reference to the wrestler dude or Sogo. But either way, that was pretty cool. And we also get Waz recreating the normal Waz talking to the fourth wall that he broke scene, except now the text is different in the background. Oh, and he also presents the Jiku Driver and Ride Watch to Gates, much like the original Waz. And that was also really fun. I thoroughly enjoyed Gates' constant rejection of it, since in Sogo's case, he already wanted to become a king and the driver was a gateway to that, whereas Gates didn't always want to become a specifically savior immediately and was more reluctant. My favorite part of this is when Waz hands the driver to Gates, telling him, "You should know how to use it," before Gates just tosses the driver to the side, and as he states, he doesn't actually know how to use it. I'm also very happy White Waz got some actual explanation for his appearance in this movie as a remnant of one of the worlds that Schwartz created in Zi-O's Endgame. Why he was fighting the End, it doesn't make sense to me, but at least his existence makes sense. I can buy why he's here. The way he's utilized here to kind of play off your preconceived notions of him from the previous season is also cool, because there he never really betrayed Gates, right? Sure, he fought Gates a few times and was kind of evil from the perspective of the audience, but White Waz's goal was always to make Gates revive the savior of the world. So in this movie, when he's attempting to do the same thing, it makes sense, and it kind of throws you off because you know he's got to be the villain in some way because of the path he took in Zi-O, and Kaito can't actually be the villain, but he's also actively trying to help our main character of the V Cinema. So the reveal of another DN is maybe not really the most surprising twist, but I like the way it tied into White Waz's character in the series and the effort to make it somewhat of a surprise. Also, he eats the Ride Watch, which is weird in the best way possible, not in a bad way. And the Waz eats the other Waz. For some reason, he has a line like, "Now I am one." So this kind of implies he has been eating other Wazes. Okay. So with White Waz as another DN out of the way, now I'm actually going to talk about the real DN, Kaito, and I find his plan here a bit strange. He's trying to get his powers back and enlists the help of Black Waz for some reason, along with assorted secondary riders, I think, because when you look at the way the riders are, the secondaries in this movie, we have Birth as the one who gets Gates back on his feet, Kaiza is the one who just protects him, and Axel is the one who motivates him to actually become a rider again. And when you look at it like that, they all play perfectly into DN's plan to awaken Gates as the savior and get the DN powers back. So I'm assuming that all of these secondary riders are summoned by him from alternate dimensions, since they all fit perfectly into what Kaito's endgame is and seemingly appear out of nowhere. And on the topic of the secondary rider cameos, I didn't hate them. They were all pretty cool. I just haven't seen any of those seasons except for Axel. So Axel's cameo, I really liked it, especially the part where he tells Sogo, "Do not question me," because, that was in double. So I really like the Axel cameo, and he actually has the most stuff to do in the movie, so that I love that as well. The other ones, it was cool, but I don't really know these characters at all. So then, if Kaito is using these secondary riders in the world, you're bringing them into the world, as part of his plan, why do you even need the Zi-O riders, dude? You can clearly still do timey-wimey dimensional stuff, so I don't know, just take Waz to an alternate dimension and power him up and have him destroy another DN so we can get our Waz V Cinema. Or give Decade a call and have him kick another DN's ass. Or just do literally anything else, summon more riders, I don't know. I guess it is sort of addressed in the movie itself when Gates punches Kaito, so I don't know what you're trying to pull here, Geiz Majesty movie, but I'm not sure I like it. So, I don't know, that stuff is just, it's kind of middle of the road for me. But again, it's not absolutely terrible. But do you know what is something in this movie that I really don't like? The titular form, Geiz Majesty, kinda sorta just comes out of nowhere without any real build-up from the other secondaries being in the movie at all. And then the way it comes from Kaito's rider cards, for some reason, just feels sort of tacked on because, you know, we needed a new form to sell because it's a V cinema. But I don't really care because this form is amazing. In a prior video, I'd spoken about my favorite henshins in Kamen Rider, but never really talked about which one was my favorite, really just sort of a general consensus on Zi-O having the best ones. Well, Zi-O still has that top spot, and now I can definitively say that Geiz Majesty has my favorite henshin in Kamen Rider. It's beautiful. The beginning of it is perfect in the Zi-O style. I love the ride watches forming around Geiz, kind of reminiscent of the Zi-O scene from the end of Zi-O itself. And then the big gold metal rings that go around Geiz are also a really cool and different effect as well. And then we have the actual henshin. I love the metal circle thing that moves up across Geiz to create the armor and the way it just forms into place. The cape that just flows from the back. We have the Zi-O eyes that, you know, slam into the helmet that I still really love. And now we have the added bonus of all the ride watches attaching after floating on the side around Geiz. And then the suit itself is still alright. I'm not gonna say it's amazing. It's definitely a top tier Zi-O suit for me. I feel like the ride watches are still a little tacked on. I would have preferred just the symbols on Geiz or just nothing at all. Or maybe even some part of the secondary rider helmet or something like molded in like Grand Zi-O. I don't really like the colors from the ride watches, but it has certainly grown on me, so it's actually not terrible for me anymore. And the base suit itself I still really love. But what really sells this whole form for me is that jingle. Oh my god. The directors could have just replaced the main riders into Grand Zi-O jingle, add something in for Kuga, and then just call it a day. Just like a simple little remix. Nothing big. I like that jingle, so I wouldn't have minded that here. But instead, somebody went like, what if we just remix the whole thing completely with an absolutely killer beat? And see how that turns out. Little did they realize it would create the absolute greatest jingle in Kamen Rider history. I love this thing so much. God tier jingle. As I said, my favorite jingle in Kamen Rider now. It's so good. And honestly, now this is my favorite form in Kamen Rider Zi-O. Now, form in general, because I think I still prefer the look of Zi-O, but I think its jingle is alright. But Geiz Majesty is basically the best of both worlds. So, Geiz Majesty being my favorite is an overall thing. And I'm happy that this V Cinema has given me a new appreciation for Geiz as a character, so that I can feel really justified in loving this thing. I really like the way this movie expanded the world of Zi-O and set events up for a future installment, and now more than ever I'm excited about seeing these characters on screen again. These last two movies really did wonders for them, specifically Geiz Majesty, of course, since they weren't so big in Reiwa the First Generation. As I said up top, this is my favorite standalone piece of Zi-O media. I really love the takes on these characters and their interactions, alongside the simple but impactful story and the sheer majesty of the new form. Be sure to let me know your own thoughts on the movie down in the comments, and check out those other Zi-O videos for more of my thoughts on the time-traveling Demon King, and I hope to see you next time. Thank you for watching.